Alright, we're just going to do a really fast redo of the chit-chat that we had yesterday in class regarding getting our ink drawing modified however we wish, added to another image if we wish, or what have you, and then put into InDesign. So I have both of the images. I'll hit my spacebar. That's going to be our cat for this one. And I'll hit spacebar. That was the ink that we manipulated and created in our make session. I'm going to go ahead, drag them both. I forgot to select both, so let's drag them one at a time into Photoshop. And if you recall, we were going to make our image in Photoshop and then bring it into either Illustrator or InDesign. For those of you who haven't had the InDesign section of this class yet, I know you've all had Illustrator, so use that as a default. But if you're comfortable with InDesign, do use that. Since we were going to do this as an advertisement, I'm just going to make this letter size, US paper letter, and go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to copy and paste the cat into it. Now you can of course also drag into it, but I'm sort of old school, so I do Apple A to select all, Apple C for copy, and take it into that new document and hit paste. There we go. There's our adorable cat, because we're going to make another advertisement trying to have feline adoption or general cat adoption. Apple T for your free transform. That will resize it. Don't forget to hold that shift key down because we want to make sure the cat stays in proportion. And since it's a white background, I don't have to worry about doing any edits to that. But you might need to tweak that if your image that you have or have brought in or have taken does have some extra goopity-gup, as I like to say, in it. Go into the ink splotch. I'm going to go ahead and go to Apple M, which is also Image Adjust Curves, right there, Apple M. And this is going to bring up our window that we were talking about. And remember, we had the eyedroppers for finding the lightest, the whitest point, the darkest point, and our mid-tone, our gray range. For this, since this is going to be extremes, we're going to go with darkest and we're going to go with lightest. So let's click on the white eyedropper and just click in the background so you can see wherever we click is where it's going to reset. From there on up, or down rather, is going to be considered the brightest. So obviously we have some little darker shades over here, so I'm just going to keep sampling until it looks like the background is all white. I'm happy with that. Now you have some executive decisions to make if you want to have the variation of the ink. So you can tell in this one it's going, and I actually took this photo when it was wet, so we had some sheen to it. So it's going from that solid dark and then looping into a little bit grayer, and we are getting, a little bit of blooming here and there. So if you want that variation, you can stay with that. If you want to solidify it into a bolder graphic, click on the black set point, and I'll just sort of go over here. So I do still get a little bit of variation, but it will have that point that we just clicked be the darkest. Now since this is, I'll say, the lighter gray, I'm going to click here just so you can see it. And you can see when we click there now, it's a pretty solid, just solid black line. If you don't like that, you can do one undo in curves. If you really don't like what you've done, hit cancel. When you're happy with what you have, hit OK, and then all we have to do is get that from point A to point B. You can hit C for crop, and the tool is right here. I am just going to take that extra little bit off so that I don't have to worry about that in our image. Double click, and then I'm going to go into my magic wand. So why I always find it's easier to use something with a white background is because if you click on just the background and then inverse the selection, you can select the object that you want to change so much faster. So I'm in my magic wand. I'm going to click on the background so you can see them right there. I'm going to click one time, and we have the background selected. So right now I have contiguous with a checkpoint. What contiguous means is it's just taking that which is sort of connected to that area. So here, where yes, it's still that sort of white at the page, because there is no opening to it, it's not going to grab it. If you want to grab those also, and let me do a inverse, and I'm going to show you both ways. So without the contiguous, with it checked, we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it into our kitten, or I guess cat, sorry, that's what happens there. We're going to have the white, the paste, but you can see where it was sort of all connected. It will select that. So let's go back into the ink, re-grab our wand. I'm going to click off on the paste board and deselect it. I'm going to uncheck the contiguous box. I'm going to click on that white background. Lo and behold, all of these are selected also. I'm just going to hit deselect and say one more thing. You could have had that still selected and you could still grab these. Just hold that shift key down. Remember, with these programs, there are so many ways to do all of these, so just know that there are other options. Go ahead, select inverse, Shift Apple S, or no, I'm sorry, Shift Apple I. We don't want to save, that's what Shift Apple S is, or save as. Copy it, Apple C, take it into this one just so we can see a side-by-side comparison. There we have it. This one, we can see the background has been sort of cut out to it. So it depends on what you're looking for. All right, now you have some executive decisions as to what you want to do with this ink drop. Do you want to go to Edit, Transform? Do you want to flip that horizontal? Do you want to flip it vertical? Do you want to free transform or Apple T? Do you want to hold down the Option key and duplicate it? Do you want to free transform it again and just blow it up really crazy and large? Obviously, this is a really strange pattern for having the cat behind it. I'm just going to hide that layer. Actually, I'm just going to toss these layers because we really don't need those. Let's just have it normal. Oops, I made a new one, sorry. I'm just going to get rid of some of those. Let's just play around with this guy a little bit. I know this is the one we have cut out. If you did this and you don't like it, just grab your magic wand, select, and then hit your delete key, and you will be able to delete it that way also. So you will have that option available. If you click on the background and you're active in that ink layer and select inverse, Shift Apple I, then we can get just the ink selected. This is for those of you who wanted to make it a different color. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And again, there are other ways to do this. This is just the sort of simple version. I'm going to go ahead, paint bucket that in. You can play around with your transparency and your opacity. So you could just turn the opacity down, find the adjustment that you're looking for, or you can play around with the layer style. So our drop down menu, it's set to normal, darken, and I'm just going to zoom in so we can actually see what's happening here. The darken, the multiply, maybe that's too close, let's zoom out a smidge. Multiply, color burn, etc. Like I said in class, for this drop-down menu, just go through each of them and sort of see what they're all doing. Remember, towards the end, around difference, they start getting a wee bit more funky. So maybe you wanted it to be a different color. You can merge these two, which I didn't talk about in class. If you hold down your Shift key and click on both of those layers, if you want this to be forever green, you can hit Apple E or just merge. I use the, sorry, it's merge, yes, just regular. You can merge your visibles and you can merge layers. The merge layers is the one if you have it already selected. The merge visible, if these two are turned off, it will just merge the ones that you can see. So that's a good way to sort of consolidate some of your layers if you're getting too many. So if I'm absolutely thrilled and happy with this, maybe I'll merge it. Maybe I'll play with the transparency a little bit more. Maybe I'll multiply that part. Let's take it back up so we can see it. I'm going to deselect. So you can see you're getting these really interesting interactions with the ink. When you're absolutely happy, you're going to do a save. My computer's slow, sorry about that. Cat backer, I'll just call this demo, and I just put it on my desktop. Remember, it's Apple D for your shortcut to your desktop. Go into Illustrator, or if you're using InDesign, that is fine. Also, make your letter document, and remember, you can make these ink pieces really literal or very abstract. It just depends on your work style. Your product is going to be unique and up to you. There's our cat. We can write our text, adopt, and Shift Apple. Remember, Shift Apple period and comma. Period makes it larger, comma will make it smaller. Adopt. And I'm using default type, don't do that, but just for demo's sakes. today. Oops, my mouse is having a mind its own. Let's get something a little bit more scripty delicious so it has a little bit of contrast. Spend more time, of course, on your typefaces. Figure out how it's going to fit within that space. Make your call to action and save it. When you're all complete, do an export, save it as a PDF, and put it up under the folder in course materials for project 2. And this is experiment number 1 in ink. As ever, the lecture's up on Blackboard, and you can also just do your own search and see what people are doing with ink or mixed media or watercolors with InDesign. So hopefully this helps and makes sense, and I'll see you later.